Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Seattle closes more parks weeks out of an election. And is Chelsea Clinton running for Congress? But before we get to any of that, time to discuss the latest thing the Democrats think is going to kill you.
We are going to die.
We are going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. Just not today.
I refuse to be lectured on the science by anybody who is confused about which bathroom to use. I refuse to be lectured about the science, trademark, capital T, capital S, by anybody who is confused as to how many genders there are. I refuse to be lectured about the science, capital T, capital S, trademark, patent pending, by people who have told me time and time again that the world is going to end in X amount of years and are always wrong. I refuse to be lectured about the science, capital T, capital S, trademark, copyright, patent pending, by people who tell me if you go into a bar after 10 o'clock at night, you might die from the Rona, but if you're there before 10 o'clock at night, you're safe. I refuse to be lectured about the science, capital T, capital S, trademark, patent pending, copyright, you name it, by people who say, well, you can't have a funeral because you can't gather in large groups. You can't have a wedding because you can't gather in large groups. You can't go to religious services inside a church or a synagogue because you might get the Rona, but go ahead and riot in the streets with tens of thousands of people. I'm tired of this. I really, really am. It is no secret that I've not been the biggest fan of RFK Jr., but today I am 100% on board with him. I'll tell you why. The left has made me this way. I haven't been his biggest fan. I think he says some things that are outlandish. But I challenge you, in any of the clips you're going to hear today, what's the problem? What's the problem with anything he's saying? It's the same stuff I say all the time. The left has tried to warp everything this man has said into some kind of crazy conspiracy theory, and meanwhile is ignoring the insane stuff that they say. They claim gender is a spectrum and not binary. Biological sex is determined by chromosomes and reproductive biology. Give me a break. They claim puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones are reversible and safe. They are not. That is not true. We don't have any science to support that at all. They claim it's gender-affirming care. You are literally slicing pieces of people's anatomy off. And then they didn't like that was considered something mentally wrong with a person, so they just removed that out of human knowledge, pulled it out of DSM-5. These are the same people who say that wind and solar can replace fossil fuels and nuclear in the near term. The technology is not there yet. It can't do it. People who claim the world will end in 10 to 12 years. Yeah, I've been hearing that for decades, literally since long before I was born. These are the people who claim defunding the police improved community safety. That is just not true. Crime has gone up everywhere they tried that stupidity. The same people who claim, heroin injection sites save lives. All we've seen is an increase in overdoses. People who claim that eating meat is a major driver of climate change because cow farts are going to kill all of us. People who claim an unborn baby is just a clump of cells. Even though, when they go to the doctor, when they're pregnant, you hear a heartbeat at 6 weeks, pain receptors by 20 weeks, viability around 20 to 24 weeks. How many more examples do I need to give of the left not actually following the science and not following the data? So when they come after RFK Jr., I will listen to that press conference today, and I got to say, they just came off like crazy people. And even though RFK Jr. has the thing with his voice, and he's a little difficult to listen to at times, he sounds completely rational. Make no mistake about it. What are they actually mad about? They are mad that one of their sacred cows is being jeopardized, the CDC. For them, anything they claim is an emergency needs funding and needs their full attention. Their buddies in Big Pharma fund their campaigns. That's what's at stake for them. Because anybody who listens to this objectively cannot argue with any of his points. In fact, if you want to disagree with any of his points, give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Let's start with this.
The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based.
Exactly. Do you remember at the height of COVID, you had all these teachers unions demanding, saying it's not safe, even though the science told us at the time, even at the height of COVID, that kids are not at risk for this, that it's only people with pre-existing conditions and the elderly. And yet young teachers and kids were not at risk. You want to stay away from grandma for a few weeks? Fine. And yet these schools were saying, ho, we can do all this on Zoom. Do you remember the head of the Chicago Teachers Union, who on social media, on one account from the Teachers Union account, was saying, refuse to go back, it's not safe, we're all going to die. And on her personal account was posting pictures of her on vacation in the Bahamas. The same teachers unions demanded that you be labeled a domestic terrorist because you objected to them teaching critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and hypersexualized content in the classrooms. The teachers unions were running the show. And let's not forget, when Joe Biden took office, the vaccines were about to be rolled out. And instead of saying, wow, things are about to get better, they doubled down on their insanity. Jay Inslee had emergency powers for another year after Joe Biden took office, another year after the vaccines were rolled out. You want to tell me they were following the science? How many document dumps have we done on this show and on social media and in articles I have written showing you they were lying and they were not following the science at all? At all. You know what? I wasn't very good at biology. I wasn't very good at chemistry in high school. But I can read, and reading all this stuff would tell anybody with half a brain, here's what's actually happening. But the Democrats saw this as an opportunity to do control. They are mad that RFK Jr. is a threat to their control. Look at some of the laws in the Washington State Legislature that came out this year. They get to decide what's health appropriate. They get to decide if you are forced to take a vaccine or not, because they want that control again. They want that control again. This continued. Give a listen to the rest of this. You know, the big claim against RFK Jr. is that he's anti-vax. That's just not the case. Hear him out for a second.
We have to acknowledge that there was a cause. We acknowledge that there was a benefit. We can't quantify either one because of the data chaos at CDC. And that's all I'm saying. And they think I'm being evasive because I won't make a kind of a statement that's almost religious in nature. Did it save 1 million lives? Well, there's no data to support that. Or maybe data, you know, there's no study, that there's modeling studies, there's faulty data. I'm not going to sign on to something if I can't do it to a scientific certainty. It doesn't mean that I'm, anti-vax. It just means I'm pro-science.
You know, all of his kids are vaccinated. All of his kids are vaccinated. He has issues with certain vaccines. He has issues with how much we're layering the kids. Do you know the amount of shots your babies get these days? It's infinitely more than my kids did 20 years ago. And the amount they're giving in on top, on top, on top, on top. Do we know what's causing autism? No, we don't. But at the same time, what's wrong with looking? If anything, you might find out it's not the vaccines, guaranteed, which has been what the science is showing. However, the science is saying maybe we shouldn't be giving them all to these kids in such a short time span when they are first born. You should be saying, let's just stagger them out a little bit like we did when we were kids. You want to say that? That is following the science. But saying, no, you're wrong, it's settled. You know, they used to say you couldn't go faster than the speed of sound. They used to say the world was flat. They used to say that the earth didn't revolve around the sun. They used to say that they didn't understand what gravity was. You guys understand that science is always evolving. Science is always changing. And meanwhile, the people we're supposed to trust on the science, this is them.
You need a montage. Even Rocky had a montage.
People should not be walking around with masks.
Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater.
Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. And
Masks are protective.
but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
There has not been any indication that putting a mask on and wearing a mask for a considerable period of time has any deleterious effects.
There are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course.
You do not need to wear a mask indoors if, in fact, you've been vaccinated. Good that you're vaccinated, but in a situation where you have people indoors, particularly crowded, you should wear a mask.
So even if you are vaccinated, you should wear a mask.
That if, in fact, you are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, you are protected, and you do not need to wear a mask.
Enough. I can't take it anymore. I just can't. How many times did he go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth? And that was the head of the NIH. Supposedly the man who was coordinating our entire response. Because they weren't following the science. They were following what was politically convenient. Politically convenient. And it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Why would anybody trust the CDC?
We were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they'd prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based.
Exactly. Exactly right. You cannot trust these guys. It was all politics. It was all who was funding this. You know, Katie Wilson, who's running for Seattle mayor, was throwing out an idea the other day. Her idea was vouchers. Taxpayer-funded vouchers for media outlets. So if you have the media outlets funded by the government, why would they ever question their main donors? Why would they ever do that? They'll say whatever the government wants them to say so they can keep that gravy train on running. You think it's any different with politicians who are sponsored by Pfizer? I mean, how many politicians are on their payroll, are on their donor roll? Do you remember what it was like during COVID?
Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer. Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
The royal wedding one is my absolute favorite. If Americans hadn't said enough is enough, they'd still be lying to you.
We were lied to about everything.
Exactly. How is it that our health in this country has gotten worse under the science. Capital T, capital S, trademark, patent pending. If the CDC and all these other agencies are doing such a good job, how did we become one of the sickest countries in the world, and not sick in a 90s good way?
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
and I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Have you found anything objectionable about what he said yet? Because I haven't. And he actually convinced me to like him more.
What safeguards are in place to ensure decisions are based solely on science and not politics? And how are you going to make sure doctors and parents can count on CDC guidance?
I mean, Senator, I would point this out. Right now, there's only 10% of children are complying with the CDC's recommendation on COVID boosters. Only 15% of healthcare workers. So Americans have lost faith in CDC, and we need to restore that faith. And we're going to do that by telling the truth and not through propaganda, by making them understand that everything that we say is true, that we're going to tell them what we know, we're going to tell them what we don't know, and we're going to tell them what we're researching and how we're doing it, and we're going to be transparent. It's the only way to restore trust in the agency.
Every child of the 80s and 90s knows about lead paint and knows about asbestos. Why do we know about lead paint, and why do we know about asbestos? Because in the 1950s and 60s, they thought those were the magical things to stopping fires and solving all these other problems. Today's problems are yesterday's solutions. I remember from most of my childhood, my elementary school was having asbestos remediation. I remember that going on in that really, really, really old building. I got up close and personal with asbestos. There was this one day we're all sitting in class, and it was an old mansion building that had been converted into a school. And they had this giant light fixture that in the middle of the day just collapsed on our classroom. And I remember the teachers, once they realized everybody was okay and magically the thing hadn't hit everybody, their first thing was, I kept hearing the word asbestos, 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 asbestos. Everybody cover your face, get out of the room. Cover your face, get out of the room. And wouldn't you know, after that, guess what? That room was out of commission, not so they could fix the light fixture, but because of all the asbestos that came down from the ceiling. They used to think that was safe. Ask Steve McQueen if he thinks asbestos is safe. After what happened to him, lung cancer, which a lot of people wonder if it was from the fire suits and all the things they did to race cars. Other people who used asbestos in their products. Petroleum companies said, put this in whatever you possibly can. Where was the CDC for all that? Why is it RFK Jr. is the first one to come along and say, hey, all these dyes have some really horrible things in them? There's nothing wrong with questioning this because we've been doing it for years. Why is the left questioning it now? Because Donald Trump is doing it, because his administration is doing it, because RFK Jr. is doing it, and because their donors are unhappy because they might be losing some money because they've been profiting off making America less healthy. You should be asking yourselves in the long run, has the CDC gotten anything right? The AIDS outbreak. Have they gotten anything right with the swine flu, with the bird flu, with any of these other things? No, they haven't. So why are they a sacred cow? Because they become a political tool for the left. I wasn't the biggest RFK Jr. fan before today. But listening to him testify today, there's not a single thing he said that I found objectionable. Instead, I heard a bunch of people who claim they're defending the science get mad at him for questioning the science, which is what science is. The way we get new theories and new conclusions and new hypotheses is by people questioning it. You can't land a man on the moon. You can't cross and discover a new world. You can't. Every scientific and technological breakthrough we have is because somebody said, I think we can, or I want to see if we can. There was a great special years ago, which was the science of Star Trek. Mike, I don't know if you saw this. It was brilliant. I think it was narrated by Shatner himself, where it was, here's all the technology you have in your life today because Star Trek inspired the notion in somebody's mind, hey, can we do this? They are working on beaming people. They can't do it yet. They're working on it. They are working on warp speed. They can't do it yet, going faster than light travel, but they are working on it. They are working on freezing human beings for interstellar travel. They can't do it entirely yet, but they can clone things. They can clone animals. Think about all the research that was done, and somebody said, no, you can't do that. And somebody said, we'll just see about that. These Democrats are mad for all the wrong reasons. They're mad over politics, and they're politically grandstanding because for all the clips I just played you, you know what Elizabeth Warren and everybody, Tim Kaine and everybody else, they're sending those clips to their donors who are going to go, yes, you're right, you're right, you're right. That is not what science is. That is not what science is. Science is questioning what came before and trying to make something new work. And you should be questioning why all these people think that the CDC and all these conclusions now are sacred cows and aren't trying to figure out why kids have autism and aren't trying to figure out why our country has declined in health and why we are sicker. You should be asking why they want to keep it that way and who they are trying to satisfy by keeping it that way. If you think there was anything objectionable or you want to weigh in, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more parks are closing in Seattle just a couple months out of an election. Really bad look for Bruce Harrell, who claims safety is getting better. We'll have all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I saw a report that they're going to be closing Westlake Park in Seattle to redo it for the World Cup. How many things do you really think we need to redo in this city to get businesses to come back, to get people to come back? Your problem isn't how Westlake Park looks. Your problem is that you had to shut down the fountain in Westlake Park because drug addicts who are funded by taxpayers were using it as a shower. That's your problem with Westlake Park. So today I thought to myself, let me go drive past Westlake Park on my way into the studio and see what it looks like. There were 2 food trucks outside, which used to be common, and you would have people from the businesses coming down and eating at the food trucks and stuff. It's not a homeless encampment. It's more like a homeless drug addict hangout. That's what it is. They hang out there during the day. I've seen the fentanyl fold. I've seen them passed out on the street. I've seen them buying drugs. I've seen them talking to each other. Redoing Westlake Park is not going to keep the drug addicts away. Just look at the waterfront. It's not going to keep the crime away. Just ask the guy in the wheelchair who was shot at the waterfront just a few days after you opened the thing. Well, now the city of Seattle has fenced off and temporarily closed 3 parks because of safety concerns. Lake City Mini Park, Stephen Hills Park, and a pavilion within the Dr. Blanche Levizo Park were shut down last month, with the closure expected to last 60 days. Hang on. Can we do some quick math here, Mike? Let's just work that out. So we're going to go to September 30th and then October 30th. Oh, wouldn't you know? The election's what? November 2nd, November 1st, right around there somehow? Yeah. So you're doing this because you don't want any more incidents before the election. Bruce Harrell wants to be able to claim that all these things are safe, but listen to what they say. This is the statement the city parks department gave Como News. We recognize that this park has been impacted by bouts of negative park activity. Oh, we have our new verbiage here, everybody. Bouts of negative park activity. The left is so creative with this stuff. How long did they sit around thinking about this thing? So should we blame it on the homeless? No, let's not blame it on the homeless. How about the drug addicts? No, we can't call them drug addicts. Can't call them homeless. Have to call them our unsheltered neighbors. We can't blame it on people. Let's blame it on the park itself. You notice how they don't describe any person/population. It is negative park activity. Yes, the park comes to life at night, and it's getting into shenanigans all on its own. Hang on. We've had pets come back to life. We've had toys come to life. Yes, time for a park to come to life at night. This is what we need. Statues, museum pieces. We did Night at the Museum. Here we go, next big franchise. Parks that come to life at night and have bouts of negative park activity. The statement said the city is also planning community outreach meetings to discuss positive park use. The people who are going to show up to these meetings are not your problem. The people who are going to show up to the people who are the problem are the people that are taxpayer-funded drug addicts because you guys have let it get so badly out of control. For those of you who say, oh, Bruce Harrell's done a great job cleaning up the city. If he's done a great job cleaning up the city, how come the city ain't clean? How come you have to keep closing parks? This isn't the first time this has happened. They've closed a bunch of parks in Chinatown regularly because of this nonsense. Gee, what do you think's going on here? According to Como News, Lake City Mini Park has been the site of a growing homeless encampment in recent weeks after a large encampment was swept away. So you're just saying they moved from one park to another park. They say, Sarah Nelson says it comes down to root causes. We are a town that likes to talk about root causes. She says drugs and the side effects of addiction. Great. I'm so glad you're acknowledging it. Hey, you acknowledged it the last time you ran for office. When are you going to do something about it? You know the thing I'm still waiting on from when Sarah Nelson ran for office? Mike knows. Mike knows. He goes, I know exactly what Ari's going to say right now. Where's your audit of Homeless Inc.? If it is drug addicts and addiction, when are you actually going to look at what you're spending money on in terms of the homeless and realize that you are enabling this crisis on the streets? We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Jeff in Port Orchard. Jeff, what's going on, man?
How you doing? Hey, just you kind of touched a little bit, hit my nerve there for a second when you mentioned the misrepresentation of the science, right? I got a pretty good story on what we perceive to be healthy vegetables and fruit. I'm in construction, and some guys down in Kent Valley, when they put up all the warehouses down there, I'm sure you're aware of, called me up, said, hey, I need 3 garage doors that are 7 feet wide by 16 feet high. And I said, wait a sec, 16 high, you mean 16 wide, 7 high? He goes, no, 7 wide, 16 high. I'm down here, I'm a food broker. He said, you got a second? I said, I'm all ears. He said, I just have to get off my back occasionally and let you guys really know what you're eating out there. He said, the reason I want those garage doors is between sector A and sector H and in between letters. He said, my forklifts, when QFC, whatever, Safeway, and the grocery stores call in, they say, Jeff, we need 2 crates of bananas or whatever. We'll move our bananas with a forklift, pick them off of a shelf, move them from sector A. And I don't want them to have to lower the forklift all the way. Just get it down, or, I have the height, so I'm good to go. But anyway, we'll move it to those other sectors, and we gas them to a level of ripeness before we shoot it off to the grocery store.
I was wondering where you were going with this. If people only knew the things they do in warehouses to the things we eat, they'd be horrified. If people actually knew what it's like in some of these places which produce our food, they'd be horrified. Let me give you one short little story here, Jeff, which is I get the best stories from people like you and from my own experience. Years ago, you're going to wonder how this is related, right? Years ago, I was doing real estate brokering for some guys from shall we just say, a gentleman's magazine. And they were coming around with me because they said they were looking for studio space. And I kept showing them these places with natural light and all these places I thought would make good studio space. And in the end, they go, Ari, you're giving us the wrong stuff. And I said, well, what do you guys do? And they said, well, we're computer programmers and we're graphic designers. We need a place for computers because we just make certain things bigger and certain things rounder. Right? The image they have in these magazines is unattainable, but they can't tell you that. It's all computer generated. The way they're trying to make the food be, it's all by these chemicals and other stuff they're trying to do to keep them to last longer, whatever the case may be. And people would be horrified if they found that out. Right, Jeff?
Amen to that, I tell you.
Exactly. Appreciate the call.
More power to JFK and a business-minded individual who's running the country. It's off the charts, incredibly great. That's all I have to say.
I got to say, I'm enjoying this a lot, too. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your calls, lots of your texts, which are flooding in, by the way. Plus, is Chelsea Clinton running for Congress? Holy cow. Say it ain't so. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Man, you guys are doing awesome today on the text line. You guys got some great stuff here. This is from David in Edgewood. The doctors mutilating underage children for gender care should be charged with child abuse and have their license to practice medicine canceled. Don't they take the Hippocratic oath? Shouldn't they be saying, do no harm? Instead, it's, yeah, let's cut something off? Insane. I do like this one from our friend Matt G. He says, when I was referencing asbestos before and all things we used to use it for, he goes, in all fairness, asbestos is great at stopping fire. Yes. Thank you, Matt. Yes, exactly. Very, very good. Do appreciate that one. This one here from Pam in Lake Stephen. She says, apparently the science is just not following anything or anyone related to President Trump. If the man cured cancer, the Democrats would say, we're not taking it. You know the proof of that, by the way, is the vaccine. That's the COVID shot. We're not taking it while he's in office, but the second he's out of office, we're going to take credit for it. We're going to forget it was Operation Warp Speed. Oh, another Star Trek reference. We're going to forget about that. And you know what? We're just going to say, we did it. It's ours. It's good to go now. Yeah, watch that spin on its head. Absolutely insane. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Sean in Lake Stephen. Sean, what's up, man?
Yeah, you were talking earlier about how Seattle downtown is just turned into a trash pit. And I remember I grew up in West Seattle in the late 70s. And as a teenager, 13, 14 years old, our parents had no problems with us getting on a bus, going down to the Cinerama or the King Theater or Cinema 150 to watch a movie, getting out at midnight, and riding back home again. Nobody thought that was a problem.
Yeah.
Why do we now accept that as being a problem, even in broad daylight? Going down there is taking your life in your hands. Why do we as voters, why do we as citizens consider this to be acceptable and continue to elect people that are not doing the job that they're sent there to do?
Well, I'm going to tell you why, Sean, and it comes from a personal experience story. When I was running for Seattle City Council, it was in the district where Bruce Harrell used to represent, which is South Seattle. And I went doorbelling in the Mount Baker neighborhood, which is part of that district, a very affluent neighborhood. Not the part of Rainier Avenue they call Mount Baker, actual Mount Baker, you know, where the big houses are that overlook the lake, you know, where people like Tammy Morales and her doctor husband live, that kind of place, right? So I'm over there and I'm doorbelling. And I start knocking on the doors and all these people go, oh, you have big shoes to fill. Bruce does a good job. And I'm thinking to myself, do we live in the same district? What the hell are you talking about? And person after person after person was talking about how great it was. And I realized they don't have to drive past all this stuff. They wouldn't sully themselves by going to downtown Seattle. They wouldn't sully themselves with going to these other places. They can live in their bubble and keep voting the way they vote without seeing the consequences of their actions, or completely separate in their minds that one has nothing to do with the other. And I wonder what they do now. So I know a lot of these people go to hang out on the east side. Do you know, the other day I was driving with my wife to get on I-90 from Rainier Avenue. Aside from the speed bump they have put there, which I'm convinced they put a speed bump on a highway entry ramp just to stop the shopping carts coming down the ramp from the homeless encampment at you. But if you look at the thing, the whole thing is graffiti. And I wonder to myself, how can they not look at this and say, look what Seattle has become? Because they have to go that way. Sean, I think that's how it happens. The complete lack of putting two and two together and living in your own bubble where they don't actually have to look at the consequences of what they did. Great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Before we do this next story, I just want to say I have no dirt on Hillary or Bill Clinton. I don't know anything that could lead to the prosecution of Bill or Hillary Clinton. I am not suicidal. I am very, very happy with my life. I think that's kind of what Jerry Nadler said too, probably, by the way, because you're telling me that Jerry Nadler says he's not running for Congress and then magically Chelsea Clinton says, oh, you know, I'm considering running for that seat. Remember that he said he had spoken to a bunch of people and decided it was the best course of action not to seek another term? Do you think he had a conversation with Bill and Hillary? Maybe just Hillary. Jerry, you better not run for that seat because it's a nice life you have here that you've built for yourself. What a nice home you've built for yourself. Wouldn't it be nice to get a little bit more, see the grandkids a little bit more, Jerry? I'm wondering if that's... Wait, I have no dirt. No, that didn't happen. I swear that I don't know anything about it. I am very happy with my life. I love my life very much. I am not suicidal. Meanwhile, another blast from the past, another name of somebody I haven't heard in a long time. Somebody else is considering running for Congress, and that is Madison Cawthorn.
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
Madison Cawthorn, after he was basically run out of office for all the scandals he was involved in and all the problems he had, is now considering running in Florida, where he thinks he can't lose for Byron Donalds' seat because Byron Donalds is running for governor of Florida. Holy cow. Do you guys want to lose? Do you guys want to lose by putting somebody like that up there? This guy was a disaster. This is what happens when you elect social media influencers with no experience whatsoever, like Chelsea Clinton. What experience would Chelsea Clinton bring to the table? Well, I lived in the White House for a little while with my parents. Give me a break. Really? That's the experience you bring? No, we can do better, America. And notice I picked somebody from the right and somebody from the left. Can we get people who actually want to make people's lives better, possibly? In the White House, in Congress, in the Senate? Just an idea for everybody. Let's throw that one out there, rather than people like Gavin Newsom, who it's all about their own personal ambition. When we come back, a story about Seattle Public Schools is going viral for all the wrong reasons. So much so that even Elon Musk just tweeted about it. We'll tell you what's up when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There's an image going around social media which says is about opt-out requests from certain curriculum, hypersexualized curriculum, etc., from Seattle Public Schools. I saw it on Brandy's page. I saw that Elon Musk retweeted it. I saw that Jim Walsh had it. I saw this everywhere today. Now, according to this post, it says, and it looks like it's from the Seattle Public Schools website, Seattle Public Schools works to provide a wide range of educational opportunities that reflect who students are, help them build empathy for others, and prepare them to be compassionate citizens of a diverse and changing world. There is no option to opt students out of learning about particular identities or groups of people. This guidance is reinforced by OSPI, the state superintendent's office, the policies of other major urban districts, including the states of California and New York, and the outcomes of federal cases around the country. We celebrate all students in SPS. Now, SPS, Seattle Public Schools, is claiming to members of the media that there has been no change, that this is all fake news going around the internet. Well, here's the problem with that narrative, guys. Literally yesterday on the show, we went through the health curriculum for Washington State from the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. And OSPI is having kindergartners learn about this kind of stuff. I have said for a very, very, very long time, even if they let you opt out of sex ed classes, they have woven this stuff into the curriculum, so much so that there is no way of opting out unless you yank your kids out of the public schools. How many times have we gone through the math curriculum, the science curriculum, the history curriculum, you name it? It is in every single piece of the curriculum. So whether or not Seattle Public Schools is telling the truth, it is irrelevant. You cannot opt out of all this stuff because there is no way to do so. Somebody was driving past Garfield High School the other day, and they sent me an image. And what it is they have 3 flagpoles at Garfield High School. And on the flagpoles, they usually have the American flag, the Washington flag, and the cause du jour. So for a while, it's been the Pan-African flag, which a lot of people thought was the Palestinian flag. It's not. It's the Pan-African flag. What that has to do with Garfield High School, I have no idea. We're not in Pan-Africa. But now apparently it's the American flag, the LGBTQIA plus minus divided sign flag, and the Pan-African flag. Those are your priorities? Not Washington State, not the city of Seattle. Oh, wait, the city of Seattle flag is the LGBTQIA thing. This says what their priorities are. Why would you continue to leave your kids in these schools? Whether or not they had a change in policy, this nonsense is woven into the entire curriculum, starting at the age of kindergarten. Get your kids out of the public schools now. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
Oh, nothing much, sir. You know, you were talking earlier about Westlake Center. I was just by there just a few minutes ago, and apparently, from what I understand, there are still those unhoused people over there, you know, basically, you know, doing drugs, and, you know, basically what they do is they actually get out their disposable phones and make drug deals right from those phones in the park.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not the only place they do it. Unfortunately, any place in the city can become a place where now drug dealers operate out of. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Got about a minute left for our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
What's up is I'm going to start by saying I'm the son of a gentleman who ran for office twice, many years political activist. So my condition for Chelsea Clinton is as follows. I think she should run. Since Lindsey Boylan has dropped out. But I think there should be a very simple condition before everyone starts throwing flowers and money her way and attention.
Okay, what's the condition?
One debate has to be somebody not funded by the Clinton Foundation, no earpiece. She is on her own for 30 minutes. It could either be a debate with other candidates or it can be coming on, say, the Ari Hoffman Show on KVI or whatever the New York version is.
I'll tell you what. I got something to add to that. I'm going to add a second condition, okay? Here's a second condition. The second she starts running for office, everything has to go in a blind trust. Every single thing has to go into blind trust because unfortunately,
Everything gets hers, yeah.
Yeah, because unfortunately, just plagued by your parents' mistakes. We know what happened. This is something that we should not. I don't know what she brings to the table. I don't know what she brings to the table. Joe, appreciate the call.
Well,
appreciate you being part of the show, my friend, but I got to run. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, the Department of Homeland Security is weighing in on the latest sob story from the Seattle Times and destroying their sympathetic narrative. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Turd Ferguson is blaming all of Washington's economic problems on Trump and tariffs, even though they predated all of that. But before we get to any of that, my friends, there was a story we did last week. I knew something was up with this story right away, and now the Department of Homeland Security is weighing in on it. Now, let's start with what happened today. Tom Homan says large-scale ICE operations are ramping up in our area. Give a listen.
I said weeks ago that with sanctuary cities, how we're going to address it, we're going to flood the zone. We got 10,000 more agents coming on. We're going to flood the zone. We don't have a problem, a biggest problem like Florida, where every sheriff and chief's working with us, or Texas. So where we're going to send our additional resources to sanctuary cities. Why? Because we know there's a problem there. We know for a fact they're releasing illegal alien public safety threats to the streets every day. So we're going to send the boots on the ground to the places that we know there's a problem. Address the biggest problems first, and that's your biggest cities, or sanctuary cities, whether it's New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle. I mean, they're sanctuary cities, and we're going to flood the zone.
So that's the first thing he says. And there have already been videos. Jonathan Cho had a few videos of ICE operations ramping up around here, or maybe people are just paying more attention to the fact that ICE is ramping up and doing its job around here. Now, on top of that, Attorney General Pam Bondi made this announcement today.
We are now expanding Joint Task Force Alpha. It has 5 steps. We will now cover, the task force will now cover our northern border in Canada, of course, and all of our maritime borders. Our incredible partner again at DHS, Christy Nome, and I are expanding this to include our DEA, ATF, and FBI agents to this task force to give us even more manpower. We will receive more resources to prosecute these cases, and key figures in cartel, human trafficking, and transnational criminals. We will strengthen our collaboration with foreign law enforcement throughout this world to protect not only their citizens, but ours, and return these criminals to American soil for prosecution.
Now, we have a maritime border. In fact, one whole side of the state is a maritime border. But also talking about border states, Washington has 2 sides that are border states. One is maritime, one is with Canada. So yeah, that applies to us, being done in conjunction with what Tom Homan is doing. Her last point is also well taken, is that people who come to this country illegally are usually fleeing justice being done in other countries or going back and forth to do bad things, like people who come across the southern border from Mexico to run drugs, to run people, to run weapons, to run anything else. So yeah, this is actually going to help out other countries because we're going to return those criminals, but also they can't keep going back and forth between these countries. It will make other countries like Mexico safer as well. Now, for every time you hear about a ramp up, the other thing you hear is some sob story. So last week, the media thought they had their sob story. And the Seattle Times put on the front page, ICE detains U.S. Army veteran during his citizenship interview. And immediately, I looked at this thing and said, what's wrong with this? There's a commentator on the Bible and on the Talmud named Rashi. It's an abbreviation of his name. But the question you are taught to ask growing up in Jewish schools, it's what's bothering Rashi? Because he never asks his question, he always just gives the answer. It's a lot like Jeopardy in that case. So what was the thing that was bothering him? That is the way I look at all these news stories that come out of the mainstream media. What's wrong with this picture? What doesn't make sense in this picture? You have this nice family-looking man, 2 kids and a wife. Immediately, I said, Seattle Times is defending an Army veteran? That don't make sense. Number 2, Isn't the woman in this picture that Looney Tune woman who ran for Congress against Adam Smith, Melissa Chowdhury, who's the one who ran on a platform of anti-America and anti-Israel and pro-Hamas? Immediately, those are the questions that jump into my head right away. Well, instead of the media asking questions about why this guy was detained, they run this sob story. Now, we debunked a lot of their sob story at the time. But today, the Department of Homeland Security issued an entire article about this guy's fraud. Why? Because Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell got involved. The Department of Homeland Security is, quote, setting the record straight on the Seattle Times and Mayor Bruce Harrell's defense of Pakistani criminal illegal alien and fraudster Mohammed Chowdhury, who has an extensive rap sheet and was arrested by ICE. Harrell released this statement. Mohammed Zahid Chowdhury served our country and was taking the lawful steps towards citizenship. Detaining him in that process is unjust and undermines faith in the system. Do you know why he's weighing in on this? Because the Kashama Sawants of the world have been protesting about this for over a week now. And he's trying to get the left on his side. And Katie Wilson has weighed in on it. Dude, did you back the wrong horse? Wow. Here's what else he said in his statement before we get to what this guy did. This administration's immigration enforcement is targeting our neighbors, friends, and even veterans rather than focusing on real public safety threats. Hey, Bruce, you had to close 3 parks this week. Maybe you should work on the public safety threats we have here. I stand with those calling for his release and for an immigration system that honors dignity, service, and fairness. By the way, I can't wait till after the show today when I reach out to his office for comment on backing the wrong horse. They won't get back to me. They haven't gone back to a request for comment in almost 4 years. Harrell released the statement even though Chowdhury first entered the U.S. in 1998 on a B-2 visitor visa, after he lied to the U.S. government about his criminal history in Australia, which includes 5 counts of financial deception, possession of stolen goods, and falsifying passports. When he was a taxi driver in Australia, a customer didn't have money and left their passport as collateral. Chowdhury tried to use it to open a bank account and obtain medical benefits. He also used a credit card that wasn't his and was criminally convicted, but didn't mention it on his U.S. visa application. By the way, would you like to know where I got this from, Bruce? Somebody in your office should really just use Google. You don't have to use ChatGPT. Just use Google. This came from the Olympian. Hang on, go to my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Let's see what I got here. Fox News, Newsmax, Daily Wire, Daily Caller. Yeah, I do not have the Olympian in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. They did this story in 2011. In 2011. One Google search. By the way, they also did this statement after we had done our expose. The Google search would have brought up our expose on this guy as one of the first things because it's one of the most recent things that came out. But no, didn't even do that. Additionally, he lied about his criminal history in Australia to obtain a green card in the U.S. and has been denied citizenship twice. He applied for citizenship 8 more times while continuing to lie and provide false information to immigration authorities. Hang on a second. This is going back a few years now. So in 2011, they wrote this. Who was president in 2011? Oh, Obama. He's persecuting illegal aliens.
Obama.
Oh, my God, he's the worst. It's that Obama guy. That's
Obama.
Him, the deporter in chief.
Obama. Only in America.
Exactly right. So hang on, let's keep going with this, shall we?
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Hank Williams Jr. Appreciate the support today. So, what else did this guy do? He falsely claimed he was deployed to Iraq. Department of Defense records show he was never deployed, but collected $449,459.82. That's almost $500,000 from the Department of Veterans Affairs Veteran Benefits Administration, according to an Inspector General's report in September of 2021. He owes the U.S. a negotiated payment of $81,000 for a mortgage reduction grant from the VBA, but has made no payments. He received a notice to appear from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in 2008 and has appealed his final order of removal multiple times since then. Hang on, 2008. Well, depending on when in 2008. No, 2008, that would have been the actual election, which means that was Bush, then Obama, then Trump.
Obama!
Exactly.
Obama! Biden.
Thank you for that. Then Trump again. So both Republican and Democrat administrations have wanted this guy out of the country because he's a fraudster. I like this quote from the DHS. They say sanctuary politician Bruce Harrell and the media are peddling a false sob story on this serial fraudster. Following lies about his military service, he owes U.S. taxpayers more than $81,000. President Trump and Secretary Noem's message is clear. Criminal illegal aliens are not welcome in the U.S. The spokesperson continued, why do sanctuary politicians and the media continue to peddle sob stories of criminal illegals and smear our brave ICE law enforcement officers? Make no mistake, these types of lies are contributing to our ICE law enforcement officers facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. They also note, Chaudhry's history of deception has been noted countless times by the courts. In 2010, Chaudhry versus Napolitano, the court made the following observations. Wait, Mike. Who was the president in 2010? Can you help me out there for a second?
Obama!
Exactly. Thank you. On the review of Chaudhry's first application for naturalization and N-400 denial, quote, this court finds a disturbing pattern of deceit for immigration-related purposes permeates this case. The court rejects Chaudhry's attempts to create a genuine issue by claiming memory lapses and making conclusory protestations of innocence. Okay, hang on, Mike. I'm going to need you here a second again. All right, I'm going to need Hank Williams Jr. for this one.
Come on.
No, sorry, dude, okay? You chimed in. Now you have to weigh in on everything, okay? Here we go. In 2012, Mike, who was the president in 2012?
Obama!
Thank you. Chaudhry versus Astro, the court upheld the adverse credibility determinations for the denial of Social Security benefits by the district court, citing in part Chaudhry's non-prescribed use of a wheelchair and unwarranted use of a cane also factored into the ALJ's determination that Chaudhry's subjective expression of his limitations lacked credibility. So what you are telling me is, oh, the disabled veteran isn't actually disabled.
Yeah,
And never went overseas. So, just putting all this together for a second. All right. Now, let's go on here. He's like the guy in Something About Mary. Okay.
The legend begins right here.
Thank you. A February 27th, 2020 decision by the Board of Immigration Appeals stated, the respondent's course of deceptive conduct demonstrates a propensity for dishonesty that makes him undesirable as a potential lawful resident of this country. To permit him to remain permanently in the United States despite his habitual use of our legal institutions would not be in the best interest of the United States overall. Hang on a second. There's more here. On August 21st, 2025, so that was 2 weeks ago when this all started, ICE arrested Mohammed Zahid Chaudhry in close coordination with the USCIS. Chaudhry appeared at a USCIS appointment in Tukwila, Washington, and was apprehended after law enforcement determined he was in violation of federal immigration law, had a final order of removal by an immigration judge. He has since been placed into removal proceedings. This is before we even talk about his wife, the full-on Hamasnik who ran for Congress in 2024 on the anti-America, anti-Israel, pro-Hamas platform, who wrapped herself in a keffiyeh to talk about how committed she was to the cause. Hey, Bruce, do you have any comment on that? Talk about backing the wrong horse. My God. This is who you chose as your sob story, Seattle Times? You know what I'm going to do for a little fun tonight, Mike? I'm going to reach out to the Seattle Times for comment, too, and say, hey, guys, how does it feel to have egg all over your face because you wrote this sob story? By the way, the Seattle Times never gets back to my request for comments either. Insane. Absolutely insane. But every single time they have one of these sob stories, every single time, we always find out there is more to it without fail. Remember the firefighters last week? they arrested the firefighters. No, they were criminal illegal aliens who were here as part of a logging company that was breaking employment law, breaking U.S. law by employing these guys in the first place. Every single time. I looked today at all the media outlets that ran stories on this guy, every single one that ran the sob story. And I said, I wonder if they're going to pick up the DHS statement. Hang on, let me take a quick peek around here. Yeah, nothing, not a zip, because they don't want to admit they were wrong. I'll also remind everybody that you had all these lefty activists, including tons of Democrats in our area, who were talking about the rallies to get this guy freed. Do you still want to get this guy free? This serial fraudster, is this the guy you want to have freed? This is the one you chose as your poster child. You figured the wheelchair, well, the wheelchair was a fake, right? You figured the cane, well, the cane was a fake. You figured the veteran thing, not exactly a guy who served with honor and distinction. You took the immigrant thing, oh, you mean a guy who was convicted of committing crimes in other countries? Why is this the hill they have decided to die on? And the truth is, because they can't backtrack. Because they don't know how to backtrack. Because if they backtrack, what is the one thing you know about Donald Trump if you know nothing else? What is the thing he has been saying consistently for over a decade? Build the wall. It's been about border security. And if they backtrack now, they have to admit he was right about everything regarding the border. They don't want to give him the win. So if Democrats keep running on this insanity, more power to them, because they'll continue to have egg on their face. Those of you who subscribe to the Seattle Times, I highly recommend you cancel your subscription. And if you send us a screenshot of your canceled subscription, we will, of course, give you the angel music to show you how happy we are and celebrate your accomplishment and say your name on air. But I ask why you haven't done it up until now. You should also tell them why they're canceling it. In fact, a lot of our friends who canceled their Seattle Times subscription say that the Seattle Times are trying to get them back right now with an 84% off deal. That is still too much money. Plus, also at the end of the 3 months or whatever they give you, they're going to jack it back up to full price. The Seattle Times picked up the story and ran with it without verifying any of the details at all. They yanked it off a Hamasnik's GoFundMe or whatever it was website. They yanked it from Kshama Sawant's protest pages and ran with it without verifying anything. Why would you trust these guys with your money? Why would you trust these guys to report honestly on anything? They have given up being the paper of record and instead are just shill activists for the radical left. And Bruce Harrell, by not doing any research on this whatsoever, man, we see what side he's on right now. For a guy who claims he's about law and order, doesn't seem to care about the serial fraudster and other illegal aliens who are dealing drugs on the streets. Well done, everybody. Really, just well done overall. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Bob Ferguson is now blaming all of Washington's economic problems on Donald Trump and his tariffs. Too bad that excuse does not hold water. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. You want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Don't forget, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, plus so much more. Yeah, another reason. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Got this text during the break. This is from the 253. My daughter went to federal high school about 7 years ago. Back then, she was an honors graduate. They had an honors ceremony before graduation. There was no American flag flying on the flagpole out front, no American or Washington state flag present at the gathering of about 300 students and parents, except I noticed the pride flag draped over the balcony above. I started making a stink, and all I got were dirty looks from several educators, as if I should just shut up, and I guess to that person, I was the problem. Yeah, that sounds about right. You bring these things up, they get all mad at you. This one here, from John in Lakewood. Some people haven't dropped the Seattle Times because the newsprint is excellent as packing material for draining fat from bacon and cleaning glass and mirrors. Okay. Very good, John. Very, very good. Switching gears, we have that Governor Bob Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson
has launched this whole statement/press conference and a report to go with it, claiming that Washington's economic problems are all because of Donald Trump's tariffs. Okay. What do you have to back that up? Ready? Here we go. According to Ferguson, he says that there's going to be a 16% increase in groceries in the next 2 years. Mike, I did a little math earlier today. There is going to be a 16% increase in groceries. Would you like to know why? Because of the Inflation Reduction Act and all the restrictions and all these farms closing. All of this stuff, not the Inflation Reduction, I'm sorry, the Climate Commitment Act. Because of all the stuff they have passed. Because all the stuff they passed this year in the Washington State Legislature. Let's just start with all the increases in fuel costs. Aside from the trucks that move the groceries to the grocery store, you know what else that increases the cost of? Farmers. I know they carved out all these exemptions that they haven't gotten in a lot of cases, but also, you know what else it increases the cost of? Utilities. You know, you need water and electricity to farm this stuff, and you need water and electricity and gas. You need all this stuff, and that's going to increase the cost. So why is that? The tariffs? You haven't actually explained that to me. Look, I'm not going to say the tariffs haven't had their impact on a lot of stuff. Mike and I have discussed this extensively. But the grocery stuff? No, sir. You didn't seem to care about any of this beforehand. Also, all the business taxes you've put on them apply to the grocers and a lot of their distributors as well. So what do you have to back that up? Okay. 31,900 fewer jobs by 2029. He claims. Well, maybe that's because you signed a bill that included a lot of these taxes on businesses. Maybe that's because you signed legislation that is chasing businesses out of the state. Yesterday, we did a whole breakdown of all the tech job losses because odds are they are getting rid of the high-income earners who are going to be taxed by your insanity that Seattle had done with the Jumpstart head tax. And then Amazon moved out of town, and you guys said, oh, well, let's do it for the whole state. So now you've got these tech companies saying, if people can work remotely, why would we pay them to work in Washington State? You want to make these claims? You better be able to back it up. Oh, by the way, never call out Turd Ferguson. Never call out Turd Ferguson. Because if you dare to call him out, he gets very, very snarky.
State's GOP chairman just putting out a statement. Obviously,
this should be good. This should be good. This should be always entertaining. Yeah, what has he got?
This focus on tariffs is an attempt to
Hang on a second. That's his response when he's asked right off the bat. He knows he doesn't have the goods to back it up, so he's going to try and demean the person asking the question.
Distract away from the market. Do you have any response to that?
I mean,
Here was the question, which you couldn't hear that well. I think it was our friend Carlene Johnson asking the question, but I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. But the question was, was, hey, the Republicans are saying you're completely full of it. That's not how she phrased it. But basically, what's your response to that? Basically, the stuff I just said.
I will say is I'm someone who believes in data and actual numbers.
Sorry, a little peek behind the curtain. I saw this was on social media. I asked Mike to pull it, and I hadn't actually heard that part of it yet. Data and numbers, really? Hey, Bob, we have the least amount of police officers in the entire U.S., least amount per capita, and yet you said you're going to fix that, and it's only gotten worse. You said you were going to create more affordable housing, more housing opportunities, and yet you signed rent control, which is only going to make it worse. You held on to your COVID restrictions for your press conferences as Attorney General longer than even Jay Inslee held on to his emergency powers. What science and data are you actually following? You were part of the people that implemented the Climate Commitment Act, which jacked up the prices on everybody. Didn't you see all the math, the science, and data behind that? Hey, Bob, your sanctuary policies that you just doubled down on, so they're not just Jay Inslee's anymore, even though you helped enact them when you were the Attorney General. You have now doubled down on them, so now you own this, have led to more drugs, more overdose, more death, more crime. That's your science and data. Let's continue.
And being prepared. And so, look, if the chairman has a critique of the actual numbers, looking forward to hearing that.
I just gave a critique of your actual numbers. In fact, everybody gave a critique of your actual numbers. Your numbers, to quote my cousin Vinny, Marissa Tomei in that movie, does not hold water.
I'm not hearing that in his statement. He's not challenging the numbers. He's not saying this isn't real. He's not saying tariffs are good for business. If he does, have him come on down to Boon Boona Coffee Shop. I'd invite him to come on down, right? Maybe have a conversation with the folks in our grocery stores, or actually they're talking to the customers about what choices they're making in the meat they're purchasing.
Hang on! You are the reason everything is more expensive. Tell you what, Bob, I'm going to contact your office as soon as the show is over today. And I'm going to say, I would love to meet the governor at a coffee shop, one that doesn't have a Palestine flag hanging on the outside of it. I would love to meet him at a coffee shop or a grocery store and find out what is impacting his costs. Would love to take him up on that.
Maybe have those conversations. Easy to put out a press release and a statement. I get that. That's what he does. I get that.
You mean like what you just did, saying it's all Trump's fault? Would you mind showing me the data to back up anything you said? I saw your report. It's garbage. It's nonsense. It is made up. Did you have ChatGPT write this thing for you? Show me your actual numbers. You know what? I got a better idea, Mike. You know who's really good with numbers? Todd Myers and the Washington Policy Center. I think I should ask our friend Todd Myers if he has seen these numbers and ask him to do an analysis if he hasn't done it already. Speaking of numbers, politicians around here love claiming that crime is because of guns, but not the offenders. When we come back, my friends, William Kirk from Washington Gun Law will be joining us to discuss Seattle suing Glock rather than prosecuting offenders. We'll have all that for you, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I know a lot about guns, but not a lot of guns. I know about the guns that I own. So when I have questions about guns, I go to my friend William Kirk from Washington Gun Law. And what we're discussing today is this decision by the city of Seattle to go after Glock because criminals are doing things to their product. To me, that sounds like adding NOS to your car, so you're going to go sue Dodge or Chevy because of something like that. Bill, what do you think, buddy? What do you think is the issue going on here?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And number two, I think your analogy is dead on. But what I want the listener to be aware of is that the city attorney is not just going after a large firearm manufacturer, Glock. They've also named 3 independent FFLs who are authorized Glock dealers inside the city limits of Seattle in the lawsuit as well. And this lawsuit has the potential of driving these 3 otherwise very reputable companies out of business. That's what this is about.
So why would you go after these companies? And also, why would you go after Glock and not the other gun manufacturers? Do you think this is just a pre-election stunt? Because Ann Davidson, the Seattle city attorney, was elected on a law and order platform. Going after the guns and not going after the criminals is really bad optics.
Well, yeah, and it's also the problem that continues to perpetuate itself every day in our community and why our problems are getting better. Because even though we have a broken left leg, every time our state legislature gets their hands on it, they put a cast on the right leg. They're consistently going after the lawful and responsible gun owners. What we have laws on the books right now, both on a federal and a state level, that ban the possession, the use, the importation of Glock switches, the manufacturing thereof, the use of them. You go through the city attorney's complaint here. There are numerous instances in which they talk about Glock switches being used. Many of the firearms are being possessed by people under the age of 21. So the mere possession of the firearm in and of itself is unlawful. But again, this is the problem what we've done with the criminal justice system, where we've removed accountability from the equation.
Here's something I don't understand. These are things you can order online from random manufacturers. They're not necessarily something you get from Glock. So targeting Glock targeting Glock for an accessory that's made by somebody else, that's nobody's fault. I come back to my car analogy. If you put something dumb on your car, like this idiot in downtown Seattle, he plows a Camaro into a bus and the bus goes into a Sephora. If that guy souped up the car at all and was driving like a maniac, it's not Chevy's fault that the Camaro collided with the bus and sent it into a Sephora.
Well, yeah, or we could even just take it to something that happens even more frequently, which is the number of vehicles that are used in drunk driving accidents. And so because if we were going to be able to ban Ford and Toyota and all that because some poor family got, hit by a drunk driver. And this brings me to the big point here, which is there's a big piece of federal legislation called the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act that basically precludes these types of lawsuits unless the plaintiffs can show that the manufacturer conspired, aided, and abetted in some type of illegal activity. So absent is showing that Glock promoted the use of this product, developed the product, helped import the product, gave instructions on installation, all of which the city attorney's office admits in the complaint, and none of that occurs. They don't even have a lawsuit against Glock here, but they'll drag this out. They'll cost everyone a bunch of money. Again, Glock's a big company. They can probably dance to this. I'm really worried about Bullseye Tactical, Pentel Tactical, and Rainier Arms LLC that are also mentioned in this merely because they're authorized Glock dealers.
That's beyond insane, especially because there are so many other gun stores in our state. It's only a matter of time till Nick Brown goes, hey, that's a good idea. Let's go after all of them as well. It seems to me that the procedure here for the left in Washington is let's make it impossible for gun dealers to operate. That way we don't have Second Amendment problems. It's just a business problem. And if we punish them enough, we can put them out of business. That's all the legislation they've been passing, right?
Yeah, it's true. And first of all, there's nothing original in Washington State's playbook. Washington State consistently sits on the sideline and watches what happens in California, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, places like that, and then replicates it. So this lawsuit has already been filed in Chicago. This lawsuit has already been filed in Philadelphia. This lawsuit has already been filed in Newark, New Jersey. The pleadings that Ms. Davidson and her private law firm Keller Robark, which is involved in this also, which is an interesting side note, the pleadings look strikingly familiar to pleadings I've seen elsewhere.
So do you think the best play here would be for them to do a countersuit based on all the things you just mentioned, the Commerce Clause, the Second Amendment, you name it, and then take Seattle to the cleaners and send a message of stop doing this stuff to us. This has been ruled on consistently and regularly, and we're tired of it.
Yeah, I don't know if countersuit's the best activity, and obviously you're going to have competing interest here because I think obviously these small independent gun stores have a certain interest that might be mildly different to Glock, and certainly they're going to have different budgets as far as defending these things.
Mm-hmm.
So again, my big concern are for the independent FFLs that have been serving the community for decades now, and the fact that they've been named in this suit.
William Kirk from Washington Gun Law. If you have a question about firearms, your Second Amendment rights, or anything thereof, he is the expert. That's why we go to him. That's why we trust him with all this kind of stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today, buddy. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
And you know that the left always loves to say, well, we need more restrictions. We need more red flag laws. But they're ignoring one of the most obvious ones. If you ask anybody, should somebody who just came out of a mental institution or has mental health problems of any kind, should they own a firearm? I think everybody's going to say no. But then if you say, what about somebody with gender dysmorphia? Oh, no. So hang on a second. I want to make sure I got this right. If somebody says, I want to cut myself, self-harm, I want to, try to kill myself, self-harm, that's a mental problem. But if you want to cut off your private parts, that's not self-harm? That's something to be celebrated? Somebody has to call me up and explain to me why those two things are different. Because explain it to me like I'm two. Explain it to me like I'm that kid in kindergarten cop who knows the difference between boys and girls. Explain it to me slowly and simply, because I don't understand why we have an actual condition of when veterans come back from war and they want to cut off an appendage so they can get more respect, or because they feel like they didn't give all for their country, or whatever the case may be. That is a mental disorder. But yet, if you want to cut off your genitals, that's something we want to affirm. That makes no sense at all. The Department of Justice is reportedly considering the policy of blocking trans-identified individuals from purchasing firearms. This comes after a trans-identified shooter killed 2 and injured 18 others at a Catholic school in Minnesota. By the way, listen to how MSNBC tried covering this.
One of the things that we're still trying to get a better handle on, we're still going through the videos and going through the writings. So just to describe it to folks, they're YouTube videos where there's a number of either journals or they look like journals where there's a number of writings, not all of them in the English language or some sort of Eastern European language that's used. Some of it is in English. And this individual is writing about a whole host of things. Won't get into all the particular details. As we stated last hour, we're not here to do the bidding of this individual so that we can basically put out the information they were hoping to gain out of this shooting, which has killed an 8 and a 10-year-old. You referenced those that are at the...
Hang on a second. Whenever it's a white supremacist, they read every single page of it. Why are they not giving out that information? Oh, because you would find out it's trans ideology? Because this guy had writings that he wanted to do it with a furry because he didn't like the way he looked and he regretted his trans ideology and what his parents had done to him. Clearly, he's a person with mental health issues, and yet they were able to obtain firearms. Why? Because we're affirming them. This makes no sense to me at all. None at all. Do you think this ban should go through or not? Is it discriminatory? Is it bigoted? Or do you think this is a mental health issue that has to be dealt with? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more of the Seattle Public School insanity is going viral. We'll give you the details on what it is this time. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Earlier in the show, we told you about this post that's gone uber viral. Even Elon Musk has retweeted it about the Seattle public schools not allowing people to opt out their kids about all this gender identity stuff. Now, people have been telling me that Seattle Public Schools has been sending out statements that there's been no change in policy. And of course, my statement in response to that is, well, yeah, it's woven into the entire curriculum. But if this is actually true and they're not allowing people to opt out, it's a violation of a Supreme Court ruling. You want my theory on why Seattle Public Schools is out with these statements so quickly? Seattle Public Schools, Mike knows this, Seattle Public Schools takes weeks, if not months, to get back to me on statements, if they get back to me at all. Why are they out so quick with a statement? Because the last thing they want is the Trump administration swooping in and saying, we're coming after your school district, we're cutting off the funding from your school district. But also, they got another problem from another group. Do you remember what the Supreme Court ruling was? Jim Walsh had a great post on this. Chairman of the GOP, representative from Aberdeen, he had a great post on this. He says, when he reshared the thing, this policy is illegal. It clearly violates the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling in Muhammad versus Taylor. That's right, it was a Muslim family that sued over not being able to opt their kids out of the curriculum. Because Muslim tradition is very, very strict regarding all this stuff. It makes Jewish, biblical, old school, Old Testament stuff look like nothing compared to what they think about this stuff, and they didn't want their kids learning about it. So, of course, Seattle Public Schools is freaking out. One, they don't want to lose any more students. Do you know the Seattle Public Schools lost over 3,000 kids over the summer? 3,000 kids. That's huge. I tell this anecdotally. I remember last year, Mike, when we had Jamie Peterson on, before all his dumb comments, he made some dumb comments on the show. I said that was one of the hardest interviews I ever did. Because the problem is I always try to be nice with the Democrats we interview. And even though I was pushing back on his stuff, he was lying through his teeth. When I was saying, there's been a 40% drop in some of the schools in Seattle Public Schools, he's like, I haven't heard that. That's not true. I literally see it with my own two eyes. The school down the street from my house, I don't have traffic problems anymore because so few people go to that school. It used to clog up the entire neighborhood. And I pulled up the numbers from Seattle Public Schools, and that school has had a massive enrollment drop-off, as have many of the other schools. Think about it this way, 3,000 kids. However many schools there are, you're not talking about, oh, that means 5 or 10 kids from each school. Some of these schools are losing hundreds of students. You don't know where they're all coming from. You don't know where they're all going. So parents have had enough of this garbage, and they are yanking out their kids. Seattle Public Schools doesn't want to tick off the Muslim population. They don't want to tick off the Trump administration. I'm thinking they just got caught. Because all this stuff is in Chris Rakedahl's recommended, or not recommended, the actual guidelines they lay out for kids and for educators in Washington State. Shall we read this again? I am in their actual health education core idea sexual health section. It has a grid, it has topic, and it has grade. Topic number 5, self-identity. For kindergarten, understand there are many ways to express gender. For first grade, explain there are many ways to express gender. For second grade, understand there is a range of gender roles and expression. Understand the importance of treating others regarding gender expression, others with respect regarding, this is the stuff they are teaching them right away. They are teaching them as young as kindergarten. I'm shocked they're not doing it in preschool. Third grade, explain that gender roles can vary considerably. You know, I remember that kid from Kindergarten Cop. I think he explained it the best way.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Then he's got this one, grade 3. That was grade 3. Grade 4, identify how friends and family can influence ideas regarding gender roles, identity, and expression. Define sexual orientation in 4th grade. Here's one for you. 5th, I don't know what topic this one was previously part of. The graphic got cut off a little bit during the commercial break when I was loading this up. Identify methods of transmission and prevention of HIV in 5th grade. Describe how media, society, and culture can influence ideas regarding gender roles, identity, and expression. Promote ways to show respect for all people. Identify trusted adults to ask questions about gender identity and sexual orientation. Why is that in there at all? Shouldn't it be? Talk to your parents. Your teachers should not be talking to you about any of this. They want the kid coming to the teacher, and that's why they give out forms. What's the name you want us to use for you? What name do you use at home? Is it different? Should we tell your parents? Should we not tell your parents? In my notebook right here, I still have my copy of the gender card, which is given out by pediatricians across Washington state, which says, should we tell your parents this stuff or not? They want your kids for their own purposes. Get your kids out of the public schools. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Representative Travis Couture will be joining us to respond to all this Fergie insanity. But a lot more than that, immigration is ramping up, and so are the National Guard troops in various cities. Are they coming to Chicago next? We'll give you all details. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour, free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45. Your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. But before we get to any of that, I promised we were going to have open phone lines, and we have an anonymous caller who is on the line right now. Hello, how can I help you?
Hi, Ari. I'm a big fan of the show, and I was driving home and heard you discussing about the curriculum that students are going to be exposed to about transgender and different sexual roles. And I'm just, for one, I'm very thankful that I do not have any children in the public school system right now. And I guess what I'm appalled about is it's okay. What they're kind of saying is it's okay that we cram this down your kids' throats, but heaven forbid we bring up the word religion or prayer or maybe even possibly bringing back the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, I pulled up this statement from Seattle Public Schools that is being sent out to everybody. All right? And here's what they sent to our friend Carlene Johnson over at the Center Square. They said there's quite a bit of misinformation swirling related to this topic. It is not correct that Seattle Public Schools does not allow families to opt out their child out of sexual health education. The image being circulated on social media of Seattle Public Schools' webpage related to opt-outs cuts off before the part of the page that makes it very clear that families can always opt out their child. Now, anonymous lady, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read for you the actual page. Tell me if this sounds like they can opt out or not. Okay? You going to do this with me?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Sure.
All right. I am on the Seattle Public Schools website, seattleschools.org. This is their health education section. Under their LGBTQ section, under their SPS for all section. So if you want to go find it, that's how you can do it. Opt-out request for LGBTQ, inclusive instruction. Right there. Why do you write the word inclusive? You're trying to make it sound like somebody's a bigot, right? About opt-out requests. Seattle Public Schools works to provide a wide range of educational opportunities that reflect who students are, help them build empathy for others, and prepare them to be compassionate citizens of a diverse and changing world. So don't you think right there they're already trying to be biased with, why would you not want this? Doesn't this sound wonderful and fantastic? Yes. Right? Okay. They also have something else here. They have flags that are scrolling of different countries underneath this. They don't have the Washington state flag sitting there or the American flag. In the image that's circulating, the LGBTQ flag is there, but I see tribal nations, I see different countries. I even see the Russian flag here. I thought Russia's the bad guys, but they got that one here. Then they say, there is no option to opt students out of learning about particular identities of groups and people. Anonymous lady, what do you think? Does that sound like you can opt out?
There you go. You can't opt out. Ding, 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 ding.
There we go.
Writing.
Wait, they're not done yet, anonymous lady. Stick with me, okay? Can I call you Al for anonymous lady? You can call me Al? Okay, you're going to be Al from now on, okay? From now on, you call in as anonymous lady. You got your new nickname, Al, okay? This guidance is reinforced by OSPI, the state superintendent's office, policies of other major urban districts, including the states of California and New York, and the outcomes of federal cases around the country. We celebrate all students in Seattle Public Schools. Wait a minute. So they just said the state requires it too, and you can't opt out, and we're going to be like California and New York where you can't opt out, even though there's already a Supreme Court case that says you can opt out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're on the same page, Al, you and me. All right, let's keep going. Learning about identities or groups of people is different from sexual health education. Families do have the right to opt out of comprehensive sexual health education under state law. Okay, that's what they're hung up on.
They're talking out of both sides of their mouth to try and pacify everybody.
Exactly, but here's something else. Remember what I said earlier? I said this earlier in the show. I said, yeah, you can opt out of sex ed, but you can't opt out of all the other stuff they have woven into the curriculum. That is what they are saying here. Instruction about LGBTQ identity is provided for purposes such as bullying prevention or safe or welcoming environments is not part of CSHE and thus not subject to an opt-out provision. You see what they've done? Do you see how clear this is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you and I are reading this the same way, right?
Oh, yeah, they're trying to talk in circles and basically take the attention off of the fact that you can't opt out, and they want to make people believe that they can, but you can't.
Right. Hang on. It gets better. All right. Al, you're sticking with me through this, okay? You're a great co-pilot so far. Here we go. All right? Here we go. I'm moving down to the bottom of the page where you can opt out, okay? Washington state law requires sexual health education. In Seattle Public Schools, this instruction starts in grade 4. Al, you heard what I said earlier. It doesn't start in grade 4. It starts in kindergarten. They're lying right there.
Earlier.
Exactly. Okay.
That's appalling. I'm just like, these kids should not have to be exposed to stuff like that. When you go to school, that's the responsibility of the parents.
Okay, you're doing great, Al, because they've anticipated that. We'll come back to that, okay? So it says they can opt out of the 4th through 5th grade puberty and HIV/AIDS, 6th through 8th grade healthy relationships, reproduction, contraception, and disease prevention, 9th through 12th dating and relationships, pregnancy and disease prevention, online safety. 30-day notice is required, and lessons are viewable by families. Wait a second. So that means if you haven't looked up the curriculum yourself and know when they're getting to it, and the teacher says, hey, we're doing this next week and didn't give you the 30 days, you're screwed, right?
Yes.
Okay, then I found a tab here at the bottom. No opt-out option. You ready for this, Al? Here we go. LGBTQ inclusive instruction, no opt-out option. Book readings that include LGBTQ plus characters, discussing bullying prevention, sharing pronouns, answering student questions. About LGBTQ stuff, displaying posters or flags supporting the LGBTQ plus community, acknowledging Pride Month or teaching LGBTQ plus history, defining terms such as transgender, gender identity for the purpose of increasing kindness, subject to same expectations as all other general instruction, including no specific prior notice required. Does that sound like you can opt out?
No.
Okay. So, Al, you are now the final word on this. Did I prepare you? Al, did we set this up beforehand at all in any way, shape, or form?
No, not at all. You didn't contact me or you didn't tell me to call in at a certain time. This is just all random.
Exactly. Anything can happen in the final hour free-for-all. Al, if you email me, I will send you a link to all this so you can see it for yourself, and I'll make sure to post it on social media tonight. Cool?
Cool. I believe you. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah. As I said, it's woven into every single part of the curriculum. Great call, Al. Great talking with you. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one here from Brian. In order to opt out, you need to opt out of the school system completely. Homeschool your children. I know it's not available for everyone, but if you can, do so. Yeah, I'll say, guys, I know homeschooling's tough and people have jobs, and I understand how tough that is. But here's the thing. Even if you send your kids to private school, you don't understand that you have to be involved in your kids' education. You cannot opt out as a parent. Every school has its issues. I've told this story on air before. My kids go to Jewish private school. There was one time where a kid came home, and thank God he listens to my show. He said, Dad, this is the history book our teacher gave us. And isn't this one you talk about on your show? And he handed me Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, which is communist propaganda, Marxist propaganda, and anti-Semitic from the Jewish school. And I said, what the hell is this? So I contacted the teacher. I didn't want to make a big deal of it. I went to the teacher first, see if we could resolve it. I've known the teacher for years. This should be something. And the teacher said to me, I had no idea. This was recommended in a Facebook group as a teacher support group, as a curriculum. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. And they immediately pulled him from the classroom. Now, that was done by accident, just relying on your friend's word. There wasn't even another motive going on there. I've known this guy. He's a good guy. I really had no reason to doubt this. Excellent teacher, never put his politics in the classroom. But that's what this That's what my kid came home with. The only way to actually opt out of this insanity is to opt out of the school entirely. Opt out of the Seattle public schools. This one here from John in Auburn. Ari is a man who went through the public school system from 1976 to 1990. Teachers always went to the parents if there was an issue. All the good ones are gone now. It's just indoctrination. And whatever is the most popular thing to revolt against. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. How many teachers have we found out about have not just pride flags up on the wall, but have Antifa flags up on the wall? It's sad. And I know that a lot of people who used to tell me, Ari, I work in the Seattle public schools. I'm just waiting to get my pension. I'm just waiting to get out of there, or any school district, for example. I've noticed a lot more of them. I get a lot more texts these days, Mike, on the Warrior Injury Law text line, which say, I used to be a teacher. I used to be a teacher when I was a teacher. That's the kind of stuff I get now. Switching gears entirely, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents will reportedly be surged to Chicago to crack down on illegal immigration in the city. Okay, this one, I'm opening up the phone lines. I'm opening up the texting because I want your input on this. I have no problem with the ICE agents going in there. Do you want the National Guard going in there? Trump is considering sending the National Guard to the Windy City, but I wonder if this is a bluff. For example, he said he was going to send them to California. What'd Gavin Newsom do? Gavin Newsom immediately sent in the California Highway Patrol because he doesn't want Trump coming into his city. And if Trump goes in there again, it's going to make him look like a moron again because crime is going to go down, and Gavin Newsom has a real problem. Gavin Newsom is already running for president, even though he hasn't announced it yet. So what's happening is Gavin Newsom needs to say, yeah, I fixed the crime. Auntie Nancy told me if I fix the crime, I can be president. Now, I know I caused all the crime, but I'm going to fix it too. I'm the problem maker and problem solver. That's what he's trying to do right now. He's trying to clean up California. You should ask why he didn't do it when he was mayor of San Francisco. You should ask why he didn't do it when he was governor of California all these other years. Why is he trying to do it now? Because anytime he's going to say things are great in California, it just takes one Jonathan Cho with a video camera to show you they are not. According to Fox News, some federal staff at the Great Lakes Naval Base just north of Chicago already are gearing up. 300 agents are expected to arrive in Chicago. Now, this is fascinating. They are talking about ICE agents. Are they talking about the National Guard yet? Doesn't sound like they're talking about that. But what's fun to me is watching the Democrats lose their mind over it. How dare you enforce the law? How dare you reduce crime? Look, we've seen what's happened in Washington, D.C. We've seen how crime went through the floor. And I think President Trump and his administration have proven that having a crime-ridden city filled with taxpayer-funded drug addicts is a choice. And that is a choice Bruce Harrell is making. That is a choice Kathy Hochul is making in New York. That is a choice Eric Adams is making in New York City. That is a choice they are making in Chicago. This guy Johnson is making in Chicago. That is a choice Gavin Newsom is making. These are choices people are making. These are choices Bruce Harrell is making. These are choices Bob Ferguson are making. These are choices they are making because they have figured out the grift. They have figured out that people will vote more taxes to solve the problems, that they are willing to give away their freedoms to solve the problems, that they can get more funding from the federal government to try and solve these problems that are self-created. These are problems that are done intentionally. So that way they can get more tax money out of you or the federal government or the county or the state to address these problems they have created. Otherwise, why would they be giving out crack pipes to addicts? You get them into treatment. You don't give them crack pipes. If somebody's an alcoholic, you don't take them to the nearest bar and try and sober them up. That's not how it works. They are doing this because if they fund the problem, they will continue having the problem. Proof? When we had the homelessness crisis first declared in our area, there were 3,000 homeless people. Now there's over 30,000 homeless people. That is by design. They are funding it. They are supporting it. That is what they are doing. Becoming a crime-ridden city filled with taxpayer-funded drug addicts is a choice. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Anna and Graham. Anna, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. You were asking our opinions about ICE or the National Guard coming in. Honestly, I say let's do it. Let's get it done. Honestly, I think it's been a long time coming with everything that's happened here in our state. I mean, you have the Washington Working Act that has obviously affected a lot of people here in our state, and we have a governor who doesn't actually support the American taxpayers, but actually focuses more on illegal immigration than immigration itself, or even people who have worked hard to become American citizens in the first place. I'm all for immigration. I actually have family who have gone through the long process. Stepmom's Canadian, so I mean, it took her 10 years to get her American citizenship, and it was a process too. And when she finally did it, that's when they're like, all right, well, now you guys need to get married and do all, and before then, you know what I mean? So it takes a while, and I feel like the people who have worked their butts off to become an American citizen, I feel like they should be supported, and I don't feel like Bob Ferguson is doing that job. And I know I actually, my sister's husband, his parents are not from here, and they became American citizens, and they get frustrated by the illegal immigration in here because of the process that they went through,
Sure.
So
let me ask you a question, Anna. I hear that little baby in the back seat. Is that your oldest? Is that your only one? How many kids do you have? You don't have to give us all details, but give us a detail on that one in the back seat.
I have two, actually. My oldest is 8, and my youngest is 2.
Okay. So for me, I've got teenagers. I've got one who's about to be in. I've got one who's turning 21 next month. And the thing for me is when they start driving, you get more terrified. And until they get home, you're still on pins and needles. And especially with all the stuff happening on the freeway, I got to tell you, after the Trooper Gad thing happened, where an illegal alien plowed into him, for me, every time my son took out the car, it was just me being absolutely terrified I was going to get a horrible, horrible phone call because parents start doing that in their heads, right? Now, I don't know about you, Anna, but my kids, when they were babies, I would go over the crib and be like, are they breathing? Are they breathing? That never stopped, right? I still do that when they're teenagers sometimes, right?
I did that with my youngest. My kids have an age gap, so it was like a whole thing all over again for me. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
I sure hope I'm doing this right. And you have the anxiety, but they're fine. But you still have that parental anxiety going on.
Exactly. And these are avoidable tragedies. What happened to Trooper Gad was an avoidable tragedy. It didn't have to happen. Look, Jews are not native to Seattle, Washington, okay? Jews are not native to Washington State. And they're not native to America. We are a nation of immigrants, but there's something the left always likes to leave out of that statement. We are a nation of legal immigrants. We are a nation of people who come to this country fleeing persecution, but did it the right way, not people who came here to break the law. Anna, take care of that adorable sounding baby in the back seat, all right? Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues, including Representative Travis Couture will be dropping by to discuss the response from the GOP to Bob Ferguson, claiming that the tariffs are what's causing expenses to shoot through the roof. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Earlier in the show, we told you about Bob Ferguson having this whole report claiming that all the price increases were due to Donald Trump's tariffs, not because of anything the Democrats did. And he got very cross, very upset, when a reporter asked him, the GOP is saying it's because of your bad policies. Challenged us to go down there to a coffee shop or a grocery store. So I have emailed the governor's office, and I've said, I am more than happy to meet you at a grocery store or a coffee shop to ask about the price increases. I assume I will never hear back. However, joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is Representative Travis Couture from Washington's 35th District to weigh in on all this. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Ari? Good to talk to you again, and let me know if you get that coffee meeting.
If I do, I'm going to bring you guys with me, that's for sure. He's not going to be too happy about that. So we're going to meet with him, assuming he ever gets back to us. You and I both know that's never going to happen because when he put out challenges like this in the past, his office doesn't even get back to me. So tell me the crux of the GOP response to his outrageous claims.
Yeah, so he has OFM, Office of Financial Management. They look at all the finances here in Olympia for the state of Washington, go off and do this massive 50-page propaganda report about how, oh, my God, all the tariffs are going to crush us and everything else. And this is the reason for all the high prices and everything else. While people are suffering the high cost of gas, groceries, rent, insurance, increased B&O and sales and property taxes, and you name it. But the truth is that, you don't have to be a budget nerd like me to understand that $9.5 billion in new state taxes passed by Democrats and signed by Governor Ferguson is a larger number than some phantom trade war crazy analysis that OFM has put together that states a $2.2 billion worst-case scenario for tariff impacts in Washington. Point blank, $9.5 billion is bigger than $2.2 billion, but it gets really worse than that because OFM's assumptions don't really hold any water. They lock in the worst-case Liberation Day tariffs for 4 years straight, assume maximum retaliation from every country, and then run the results through all these elasticities and multipliers designed to make the numbers look as scary as humanly possible. And that's not forecasting, Ari, that's fear-mongering. And even their own report admits some of these tariffs are paused or under negotiation, but they presented them like this was a stone-cold fact, that these things are going to happen. And, of course, Bob Ferguson gets up and has a bunch of people come up and kind of support his claims, all his political allies, of course. But, there is no phantom trade wars, and they're taking the worst case possible scenario that may never even come to fruition while simultaneously ignoring the true chaos and harm that they have done with this worst state budget in state history, largest state taxes in history, largest amount of spending, reckless spending in history, and the only winners of this budget were politicians, bureaucrats, and criminals. And, I mean, you got to think about it. For every 75 cents the Democrats saved, they spent a new dollar in this budget. And this is what's really impacting our families and our businesses here at home. But they're hoping that people are useful idiots, that our constituents are dumb enough and foolish enough to believe the words that come out of the governor's mouth in this OFM report. And it's absolutely wrong. I mean, OFM, Office of Financial Management, is supposed to be a state entity that works for the people of Washington state, but they are being utilized as a propaganda arm for the governor's office to try to paint this unrealistic, ridiculous picture of what tariffs could even be in the future, while simultaneously ignoring something that is like 4 times more devastating, their own decisions in Olympia. They turned us into a $15 billion surplus into a $15 billion deficit in just a handful of years. And they want to pretend like somewhere off in the federal government is the actual problem here. It's not. And so, of course, it's just tragic that, they have turned into this gaslighting operation where they just want to blame shift and fear monger their way because they don't actually have any solution from the Democratic Party here in Washington State for all of the messes and things that they've made in so many different categories and areas that they just hope and pray everyone will believe them if they just blame Donald Trump for everything.
So then I have an idea for you. Why don't you guys on the other side of the aisle ask them for a report of all the effects that the taxes are going to have, combined with all the stuff they did with the Climate Commitment Act, combined with all the stuff, and get the report that shows that all this is going to happen, and they don't even have to assume worst case scenario with the tariffs, and just get your own report of this.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Ari, and everyone will hear it first on the Ari Hoffman Show. I literally sent off a nasty little email to OFM about this report, and then requested of them that they put in the same effort that they did into this baseless report and go in and study the impacts of all of the state taxes and fees and increase in reckless spending through our own state budget, which, by the way, is their job. And so they wasted all the taxpayers' money and time coming up with this tariff report, but now I'm asking them to do their actual job and analyze the actual harm that has been done by their own policies here in Olympia and, affecting all of the people of Washington State far more drastically than any tariff possibly could, even the worst-case scenario.
I have an idea. Why don't you also send a request over to Todd Myers at the Washington Policy Center and ask them to do not just a report like that, which I believe they've done pieces of it already, but also a response to this, and then see what the OFM report looks like when it finally comes out compared with the Washington Policy Center.
Yeah, first of all, I love Todd Myers. I love Washington Policy Center. They're doing some great work over there. If people don't know about them, they should go check them out. But exactly, you're hitting on something that's really important in that we have to be able to combat this gaslighting, these falsehoods, and these lies constantly, because Bob Ferguson and government agencies are constantly gaslighting us, constantly putting this stuff out and hoping that enough people just buy into it without looking any deeper. But this has got to be a labor of love of many hands. So, if you're listening to this right now, everyone needs to pitch in a little bit of help to spread the message that this report is a falsehood, and it's a fear-mongering scare tactic designed for political purposes as propaganda, and that we have to push back with the actual facts. And some of it, the facts are easy. They're logical. $9.5 billion in new state taxes signed by Democrats is a much larger number than any possible worst-case scenario, which is likely to never occur over tariffs, and that's $2.2 billion. I mean, one number is way larger than the other, but again, Bob Ferguson won't even acknowledge the harm that he's done with the state budget. And he said when he signed the state budget that he was proud to do so, including robbing single mothers of their child support who are on the edge of poverty, robbing the age blind and disabled, and even the largest Medicaid cut in state history signed by Bob Ferguson long before the big, beautiful bill was ever a thing, $782 million in just a couple years, over 4 years. And you know what? He has nothing to say about any of those things. And at the end of the day, they took the money they cut from the budget, they increased spending so that they can pay themselves and bureaucrats more money. I mean, it's unconscionable. It's ridiculous. And to try to shift all the blame to tariffs that some are paused or under negotiation or may never come to fruition, and then try to use a bunch of data trickery to come up with these unrealistic, ridiculous assumptions using elasticities and multipliers so that they could scaremonger and fearmonger everybody into believing that Donald Trump and the federal government is the reason and tariffs are the reason for our woes. No, it wouldn't have mattered who was president if it was Kamala Harris or Donald Trump right now. We'd still be going through this. And so to your point, it's going to take everybody to step up and be a part of the solution here and talk to your friends and neighbors about the facts and spread the facts around so that we combat those lies.
Just before we let you go, I'm looking at the breakdown here. This was done by Como News summarizing the report. And just off the top of my head, I can debunk this thing. They point to a 16% increase in groceries over the next 2 years. We were going to have that anyway because of the Climate Commitment Act and because of all the new taxes on businesses. a spike in the cost of clothes. Well, we are already having all these new taxes on businesses. That was going to happen also. 20 to 25% increase in the cost of used cars over 2 years. I noticed they didn't mention the cost of used cars the past few years because of the Inflation Reduction Act and because of all the things the Democrats did nationally. 31,900 fewer jobs by 2029. I noticed they're not taking into account all the businesses picking up and leaving Washington, including in the tech sector that we've been documenting over the past few weeks, ever since the Democrats decided, hey, we're going to impose all these taxes on high earners. This is literally everything they caused. And I can see that just from reading this without even looking into the numbers, because I know what the Democrats did. Representative Travis Couture, really appreciate you looking out for all of us, and I look forward to the OFM giving you that report. Can't wait to have you back to tell us what they find, assuming they actually do it.
Yeah, don't hold your breath, but thanks for having me on, Ari.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. Your calls, your texts, plus why CBS is freaking out over a member of the left who's joining their ranks. We'll tell you about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Remember, while you're over at KVI.com, make sure to check out a bunch of those articles that have been posted by me, movie reviews by Mike, and so much more while you're over there. Lots of great stuff up on KVI.com. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Bert in Spanaway, who has been holding patiently for quite some time. Bert, what's going on?
Yeah, well, I originally called. You were talking about the illegal aliens problem and stuff, and I originally called about that.
Sure. Tell us what your thoughts are. I'm sure that topic is not going away anytime soon, so you are free to talk about that, sir.
Well, not long ago, maybe a month ago, my daughter, in her apartment complex, there was a car going 35 or 40 in the 20 zone.
Mm-hmm.
Broadsided her, caused $4,000 worth of damage to her car, and the other driver was an illegal alien making food deliveries with no license and no insurance, and the Pierce County Sheriff's Department let him go without a ticket.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, unfortunately, I think almost every single accident I've been in Washington State, I think everyone was caused by somebody who was drunk, high, or illegal. I think that is every single accident I've been in. And I think most of you who are listening go, how many accidents does Ari get in? But also they say, yeah, any accidents I've been in has been the exact same thing. Mike's laughing at that last line, right? Mike's giggling about that one. But yeah, I think that's a very, very common thing right there.
Yeah, it's just so wrong.
Yeah,
but it's our own fault.
Yeah,
we keep re-electing, or so they tell us. We keep re-electing the same people to the state legislature.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we keep electing these people, and they're hoping you're not paying attention this election cycle too.
Well, and I don't think there's been a fair, free, actual election in Washington State in 30 years.
Well, here's the thing. As long as we have mail-in voting, that's why the GOP is trying so hard. In fact, everybody should go out to the Washington State Fair and go to the Pierce County GOP booth, and you guys should sign the initiatives to make sure we have voter ID as part of this. You should do that. In fact, you should come out there on Monday. Mike and I are going to be out at the fair on Monday from about 4 o'clock-ish till about 9:30-ish at the fair on Monday as part of Military Monday at the Washington State Fair. And then go check out the GOP booth. Bert, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Just before we let you go, CBS News staffers are quote-unquote apoplectic over reports that Barry Weiss is on the verge of becoming part of the network. What happened was Paramount/CBS bought the Free Press for $100 million. She just started that thing a couple of years ago, Mike. She just started that thing a couple of years ago, and already it is worth $100 million. CBS is buying it. And don't forget, Barry Weiss is a liberal. Why are they mad? They're mad because Barry Weiss is pro-Israel, because she's Jewish, and they're mad about that. This is why she had to leave the New York Times. She had to leave the New York Times for the same kind of thing. Not the right kind of liberal for us. She was part of their editorial staff. She went off, formed their own paper, which probably has more subscribers than not the Seattle Times, the New York Times. She probably went off and probably has more subscribers than the New York Times right now on the Free Press. Everybody I know, right, left, and center, they all subscribe to the Free Press. Everybody loves it because it has all the perspectives, not just the far left insanity, which is peddled by outlets like the New York Times. Why is CBS freaking out? Because you might get some actual journalism. And besides, guys, you had so many lawsuits now. God forbid CBS actually has a news division that makes money after all the disasters you guys have caused. You had your chance. You ruined it. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, before we get to our good news headlines, I got this one funny story here. So, do you remember back in July, the story went viral of the guy in the Chuck E. Cheese mascot being arrested down in Florida? It was hysterical. I couldn't figure out why the morning show was talking about this again yesterday. But then I realized the video came out of it. Mike was kind enough to clip part of the video. Now, you got to use your imagination because this is audio, not visual. And you got to picture the cops walking up to Chuck E. Cheese inside of Chuck E. Cheese's. The guy's wearing the big mouse head and everything. And the kids are running around going, "What are you doing at Chuck E. Cheese?"
Chucky's a little bit busy, man. Chucky, come with me, Chucky. Come on. Come with Chucky. Chucky, stop resisting. Stop resisting. You're being detained. Stop resisting. Let it go. Let it go. Do not cause a scene here, sir. I got one.
As they walk Chuck E. Cheese out of Chuck E. Cheese, and the kids going, "Let him go. What are you doing to him?" The guy was suspected of credit card fraud and other fraud type things, but I find this hysterical. Don't cause a scene. You're arresting Chuck E. Cheese in the Chuck E. Cheese costume inside a Chuck E. Cheese, but don't cause a scene. Him being perp walked with the gloves on and the head still on. My favorite part is later. The audio wasn't so great. I did listen to it, Mike, trying to see if we can get this, where they're going through the Chuck E. Cheese pants, those jeans he's wearing. You got anything in here? You got anything in there? It's kind of like that scene in The Mask when they're patting down Jim Carrey and they keep finding all this weird stuff in his pockets. Oh, truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. Getting back to things that are happening locally, looks like the Kraken are getting new uniform designs. The Seattle Kraken, according to King 5, unveiled the team's first ever third jersey on Thursday with a very unique element. The jersey is all black and has glow-in-the-dark elements, which the team says is a nod to the bioluminescence found in the waters of the Pacific Northwest. Couldn't you just say you like to go to laser tag or clubbing or whatever, and it looks like that? Sure, let's go with the bioluminescence in the water. Let's go with that. They said when we set out to design a third jersey, we wanted to create something a bit more menacing and intense. We drew our inspiration from the eerie shadows of the deep Pacific Northwest waters. The result is the franchise's first all-black kit that includes ice blue glow-in-the-dark outline on the crest, a nod to the incredible bioluminescence found in these waters. We're extremely proud of how it turned out, and we can't wait to see our players and fans in this new look. I will say it looks pretty awesome. It does. And I'm thinking when they do that release the Kraken thing at the beginning of every period, this is going to look pretty awesome if they turn out the lights. One thing for the Kraken, before you guys start your season, can you go back to the OG way you used to let them come out with the videos on the ice and all that? They don't really do that anymore. They're kind of more obsessed with the Kraken theme, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but I kind of like the original one you did with the submarine and all that. I know there's pieces of it in there, but I still think the original one was better, and it'll look awesome with this. It'll look really, really awesome. So can you do that? That would be great. That would be a lot of fun. Meanwhile, somebody who looks like they're not going to be having a lot of fun are people who plan on rioting at Seahawks games. Okay, so here's something interesting. According to Yahoo Sports, the Seattle Seahawks are taking a bold step toward trying to prevent supporters from breaking the team's code of conduct at home games. Undercover police officers will dress up as opposing fans in an attempt to stop unruly and disruptive behavior at Lumen Field. The Seahawks said the move was made to more quickly detect instances that could get out of hand. So I have a question. I'm not sure this is actually because of Seahawks fans. I think this is because of the soccer hooligans. Over the weekend, there were some videos of soccer hooligans at Lumen Field going crazy. And guess what? That's what soccer hooligans do. Look, we've got our challenges with the Seahawks and the woke stuff from time to time, but I don't think this one's on them. I really, really don't. And I got to say, you know, my kids are Seahawks fans. I'm a Seahawk fan. I got no problem. I don't see violence in the Seahawks games when we go. I haven't seen reports of the violence. So I'm not really sure what they are reacting to here. Mike, you've got a look on your face. Like, I don't know what they're doing here.
No, I've been to enough Seahawks games, and I've been to enough Seahawks 49ers games to know that 49ers fans are jerks.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So we're more worried
I'm related to one. My cousin is one.
So we're more worried
That
about...
was a fun Thanksgiving.
Was it the one where
Goodness.
Russell Wilson was eating the turkey on the field? That was a
No,
good
it
one.
was the one where the 49ers came to Lumen Field and stomped the Hawks.
Yeah,
and
that one.
That was a long ride home.
That must.
That was a tough day at the office. But no, 49ers fans are categorically jerks. So you putting cops in 49ers outfits? Don't make me hate the 49ers more. What are we doing?
Yeah, this is a little crazy. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes today. We're giving away $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 to win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. Well, that's going to do it for us today, my friends. Fear not, we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.